Shoots and Scores Hockey Talk, where we talk everything hockey. I am John.
And I'm Mike.
All right, Mike, let's go. Now we know that our other Shoots and Score Hockey Talk personnel is away for today, but that's okay. We're going to go on without him. And the first item up on the topic for tonight is, of course, the NHL season is finally over. And I do believe it goes on too long, Mike. I really do. With the worst finals schedule I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like that nonsense ever. But the results are, of course, Florida won 4-2. Florida wins the Stanley Cup at home 5-1. Well, let's get into this, Mike. How did the Oilers lose the Stanley Cup for the second season in a row against the same team?
Well, I mean, Florida is, and I've talked about this before, very well balanced. Their top three lines are, you know,
Gold.
pretty much equal to some other teams' top lines. So the scoring that those three lines produced, and all three of the lines scored. The only line that didn't score any goals really was the fourth line. So,
And you
of
don't need
course,
them to.
exactly. And the Oilers can only cover, you know, they've got to put their third and fourth lines out against some of these guys, and they're not going to get the ideal matchups that they want. So, like I said, Florida's balance was too much for the Oilers to overcome, and the last the last couple of games, Draisaitl and McDavid were held in check by Forsling and Schmidt were mostly the ones that were out there against them. So
Right.
um, Bobrovsky played really well. The Oilers' defense was very questionable at times, giving up too many high danger chances, I think. Um, and at the end of the day, they just didn't get enough scoring. McDavid and Draisaitl can only do so much. Nugent Hopkins was playing with a broken hand, so that limited him to what he was able to do. Um, so when you're relying on two guys to win you a game, it's not going to happen very often. I mean, every now and then you'll see it, but it's not going to happen. Not in the Stanley Cup Finals against a team that's as good as Florida.
Do you think that if Nugent Hopkins had been 100%, that the outcome might have been different? Just because he was playing quite well.
I don't think the outcome would have been different. The reason why, I mean, sure, he would have probably been able to chip in, but Florida won a couple of these games by wide margins. So, um, and Evander Kane was pretty much non-existent for scoring in the final
Right.
round.
Yep.
So, like I said, it was McDavid, Draisaitl, and Bouchard and Corey Perry were the guys that provided pretty much the entire offense in the final for that team. And you can't win that way. You need more production out of your depth guys, which they did not get.
Right. And Bobrovsky, I don't think he had a bad game that last round.
I don't think so. I mean, there's he gave up some goals, but I mean, none of them were really, you know, must save goals. Like
Right.
there's some of them that, most of them he didn't have a chance on. So, those are going to go in. But Bobrovsky played well. I mean, and the whole, like I said, the top three lines for Florida, it was just too much. It's too much for the Oilers to be able to handle. And
The
any team. I mean, when you look at it, Toronto put up the biggest fight against Florida.
That's right. They did.
So,
They did.
and you see the uproar that's going on in Toronto. They're
I
dismantled
know.
the team and all this stuff. So,
And
you know,
as far as I'm concerned, that's all ridiculous. Just
well,
leave
I
the
mean,
team be.
at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to give credit to the other team just being better, and they were. They made good moves at the trade deadline. Bringing in Marchand was a genius move. He was phenomenal in the playoffs, especially in the finals. Scored a lot of key goals. So it's unless you're able to match those type of moves, and it's not like Florida gave up like they gave up a first round pick to get them. Mind you, Florida's first round picks are generally going to be very late, so they're a lottery ticket basically.
Do you think that the Florida third line is the best third line in hockey?
Oh yeah,
Right? Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Can you
I
think of a team that would be close, second
num-
maybe?
Number two, I would say would be Dallas
Right.
because they had a pretty solid three lines too, but somehow they couldn't beat the Oilers. So, but Florida. The thing with Florida is they've got the right elements on each line. They've got the scores and a physical player on each line. The first line is Reinhardt, Barkov, and Tachuk. Second line is Bennett, who's the physical guy, Verhage, and Luce. I don't know who the Rodriguez. And then the third line was Marchand, who's their physical guy, with Lundell and Luosterainen. So,
Right.
and all of those guys, and I mean, Florida set records for uh, the amount of guys that had, was it 15 points or more in the playoffs, something like that. They had the most ever in NHL history of players, the amount of players that had 15 or more points.
Yeah. Pretty hard to stop a team like that. And you're right. Toronto did give them their biggest run. I mean, the Oilers did better against them last year.
Yeah, yeah.
So technically they did. I mean, maybe not overall, but technically they did. But
And the surprising thing I find is that, Florida lost Ekman Larson and Montour going into
yeah.
the season,
And
and they
Montour
didn't
was supposed to be a big loss.
they didn't really fill those holes on defense with any big names. Like Nate Schmidt came in. He was it was Nate Schmidt and then the guys that they had in their system already that played. So, and as far as forwards go, the difference from last year to this year is they brought in Marchand, and I don't think they really lost anybody that played up front last year that was overly meaningful
Right.
compared to what Marchand was able to bring in. So,
All right. Okay. Well, fair enough. Let's go on to our second topic, which is, of course, and this is the way I'm going to name it anyway. The goalie carousel with the Oilers. Is that what ultimately finished the Oilers off, Mike? Or was Florida just that good? You already said that Florida is that good. Is it a combination of both? Perhaps another reason, like maybe the power play? Like what happened to the Oilers' power play? What do you think here?
it's a combination, I think, of all of those things. I mean, the goaltending for Edmonton was not good. Um, I think you could tell that the team, when the way they played at times, they lacked the confidence in the goalie, um, a better goalie, and I think maybe it's a different result. However, it might have been meaningless anyways because, like I said, Florida played so well that the Oilers needed to get some more secondary scoring, and they didn't. When they're relying on one line to do all the scoring, they're not going to win, and that goes with any team. Put them in the same situation as the Oilers. Like if you put any team in that situation for this year, I don't think Florida was losing to anybody. The team that I thought was going to give them the biggest challenge was
Tampa.
Tampa,
Yeah.
and they put them out so fast that Tampa didn't know what hit them. So, and Tampa was built for a good playoff run. I thought they had solid scoring. Their defense is good. They've got a goalie. Um, I thought they would have given them Florida more of a fight than any team already. So, but that clearly didn't happen. And the power play, yeah, it kind of dried up a little bit there for the Oilers. I think Nugent Hopkins losing him on the power play was, and I shouldn't say losing him, but not having him as effective on the power
Right.
play was probably one of the things that hurt them as well. But you got to give Florida credit. They've built a great team. I mean, for them, if they can somehow find a way to get, those three guys to come back next year, and it doesn't look likely with the cap room that they have, but they should be able to bring two back. We'll have to see in the off season. I know that Ekblad prefers to finish his career there. Sam Bennett, I would think he'd want to stay based off of how well he's fit in on that team. Marchand's fit in really well on that team as well. But I think those two guys are gonna maybe look for the contract as opposed to maybe staying. But I mean, who knows? Florida, no state income tax, so they can offer a little bit less than what some teams can, and the player will still make the same amount or more because of the tax laws they have in the states.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, all right. Well, let's go on to our third topic. And I want to talk a little bit more about the Oilers because I was really hoping that they were going to win. But like you said, wasn't going to happen. Mike, I want to take a little bit of your knowledge. I'm going to ask you, do you have any suggestions on what the Oilers need to do to win the cup with the team the way it is now or as close to it as it is now without dismantling the whole thing? Or is it now just a lost cause? They've been there 2 times in a row and it'll never happen again. I was reading a DH Sports article. They were talking about the number one move they should make is get Jake Allen from New Jersey.
No, no.
Yeah, I kind of figured you would be shaking your head there. What do you think, Mike? What do you think of DH Sports, and what do you think of the question?
Well, I think the team. I don't think you got to dismantle the team by any stretch. I think they have a solid foundation. However, a couple issues that they have is they got a couple guys that are overpaid. One being Darnell Nurse making like $9 million a year.
That's right.
You can't you like you could get a guy that does basically the same as him, much cheaper. So that hurts them salary cap wise having a guy making $9 million a year that does not put up the production for what would justify that contract. Secondly, the goaltending. I mean, yeah, it's like beating a dead horse here, but I really think that they could have addressed this in January and got Bennington from St. Louis before Bennington and the Blues got really hot down the stretch. I really think St. Louis would have considered trading these guys.
Right.
Now, I mean,
Yeah. Good luck now.
either they go back with Skinner, which I mean, everybody's going to say, well, you can't go back to Skinner now. It's 2 years in a row. He hasn't played good in the playoffs. You can't go back to him, and they're not wrong. But what are your options? There's very little available for a goalie. Um, I mean, Carolina did great to get Frederick Anderson signed a couple months ago before he went to free agency, and they got him pretty cheap because I think Edmonton probably would have thrown double the amount of money at him that what Carolina pays is paying him. So, but it's a team he wanted to be with. So, I think your next option is John Gibson, but I don't know if he's ain't going to be any better than Stuart Skinner because I know Anaheim's looking to move him, but I'm not a big John Gibson fan personally, so I really don't think you're upgrading. Edmonton's going to have to get creative if it comes down to improving their goaltending situation, if that's what their plan is. But defense needs a little bit of work. They could have used maybe another physical guy and another guy that could like Ekholm did pretty good with points. Good secondary offense out of him. Bouchard's clearly your number one. However, defensively, he's not strong. He made a couple bad turnovers and
That's right.
ended up costing them. But when you're flip flopping between Stetcher and Klingberg, neither one of those guys were the answer. So you needed to have another guy that would be a little more solid. Like when you look at Florida, there's no flip flopping on who was in and out of that lineup. It was the same lineup game after game after game, unless I don't think they changed their lineup in the whole finals. But anyways, as far as forwards go, some guys that they brought in just didn't work out. Jeff Skinner should have been a good fit on that team, playing with either McDavid or Draisaitl, and he really didn't do much. So that wasn't a great fit there. They've got to find some better Like
Role
they gotta
players.
use Florida's system almost. And I don't say their style of play system, but how they construct their lines, like how Florida had their lines constructed. You know, they're they couldn't have done it any better. So teams that are looking to make a good run should be looking at that. And it's hard to find physical players that put up points. They're not easy to find. And for Florida to have three of them on their team, I mean, Sam Bennett won the MVP, leading the playoffs in scoring. So, they had three, one on each line. So, perfect fit. A lot of teams should start looking at that model moving forward, but it's going to be pretty hard to duplicate that.
Very, very true. It is going to be hard to duplicate that. Oh man, it's just so. I guess it's just depressing, to a certain degree. It's just depressing because I was hoping that Edmonton was going to pull it out. You said no, and I was like, "Damn, come on, Mike, be wrong." And unfortunately, you were not wrong. You were wrong a few times during these playoffs, but that was not one of them. You said
Yeah, and I
basically
mean,
Florida was too good, and you were right.
I thought that Florida was going to win Game 4 too, and they lost. So I thought there was no way they were going to lose that game, and they
That's
lost
right.
that
Yeah,
game. And then they smoked the Oilers in Game
yeah.
5,
The
where
Oilers had to win Game 4 and Game 5 to have a chance.
yeah, absolutely, they couldn't lose that game at home, and when they did, not going to be easy to win a cup clinching game in Florida in their home rink. So
Well, I mean, the season is over, and I just want to bring that up one more time. Like, I thought that was a horrible, horrible schedule. Just terrible. Like, what were they going to play? Like 17 games, 17 days, or something crazy like that? I
yeah,
don't know. I mean,
it was long. So we're lucky it didn't go to a Game 7, because a Game 7 would have only been tomorrow.
good lord. I wish that the season would end a little sooner. I understand that we had that extra hockey in the middle of the
Yeah.
season. We all loved that, and I don't have a problem with that. But man, anyway, whatever.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much going to be the norm moving forward. Uh,
Yeah,
each
of
year they're
course.
going to have an event mid-season now, it looks like. So,
Which is good because we enjoyed it. I mean, it was
oh
good
yeah,
hockey.
absolutely. I mean, you're seeing extra hockey that's really, really good, and I found that it made the second half of the NHL season much better as well. Because
It
I
did.
mean, you know, uh, as I was speaking about Jordan Binnington, like he really stepped his game up in the second
Yeah,
half after winning winning the gold medal, and then St. Louis ended up making the playoffs, who looked like they were dead in the water around Christmas time. So
right. And they almost won that series. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, they played well.
they could have won it. It was
They gave
close.
Winnipeg a run, but
They did. They did. So I have one more topic here for you, Mike, and this is pretty simple. But how would you rate the playoffs overall on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being the best, one being the worst. If you take
uh,
everything in combination, the referees, the schedule, the games itself, the players, what do you think?
well, I mean, when if we're talking about the games, I would say it's probably at least a 9. I thought all the games were really good. Um, Refereeing, tough to call on that. I'd say maybe a 7,
Okay.
just because there's a lot of calls that don't get called in the playoffs, and I
Right.
understand they want these teams to play, just to keep playing and decide the games on their own, as opposed to being on power plays. But needs to be a little more consistency, I think. So as far as the schedule goes, I mean, I had no issue with the schedule up until the last round, where it was so, you know, stretched out a little bit. But it's the final, so they gotta, guess, try to create their hype and all that stuff in between games and that, I guess. So
Okay. All right. Well, that's all that I have, except for, of course, Mike, the hockey profit questions where you are the hockey prophet, or at least that's what I say. So, Mike, are you ready for the hockey profit rapid fire questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, number one, Mike. Will the Oilers beat the LA Kings in the playoffs next year?
Hmm. Yeah, I think they will.
Okay. Number two, should the Oilers re sign Corey Perry?
Yes.
Number three, is Brad Marchand going to stay with Florida? Now, I know you think that he's going to leave, but can you give me a percentage chance on what the percent might be that he could stay?
I'd
What do
say
you think?
it's I'd say it's 50-50, if not maybe a little bit more in Florida's favor. Um, Only because the way that he spoke about the team after when they interviewed him after the
That's
game,
right.
um, it looked like he enjoyed it there and he thought that it was a good fit for him. The team really took to him. The fans really took to him. I mean, all the rats on the ice and that sort of stuff. And I mean, let's not kid ourselves here. Brad Marchand, he's a bit of an attention hog. So,
Absolutely.
and he loves the attention. And why wouldn't he? I mean, if I were him, why not go back? You can win another Stanley Cup on that team. That team's like loaded. And I
Right.
say that for all three of these guys. Like even if they took a little bit less than what, the market is paying, and I'm not saying a ton, but they can win another Stanley Cup. Why would you want to leave that? Like, but we'll see what happens. Who knows?
Okay. All right. Number four, will McDavid ever win a Stanley Cup, Mike? What do you think?
Yeah, for sure he will.
Okay. All right. Number five, who would be the first player to go if you were the GM of the Oilers today?
To go, as you mean get rid of?
Yep, to get rid of. That's right.
Oh, boys. Well,
Jean Luc Picard?
I would say, take your pick between the Skinners, I guess. So, yeah, neither one of them worked out this year. And I know that they wanted to give Stuart Skinner the benefit of the doubt because he got them there last year, but this year he didn't have a great year. They had to rely on Pickard more often than they probably should have. So, yeah, I would say they would be looking to replace those guys.
Okay, and finally, number six, Mike, and I'm sure you'll be glad when this is all over with. Now, this is a good one. If Bobrovsky left Florida today, would you sign him with the Flyers right now? Because he's getting up there in age, Mike. Would you sign him with your Flyer team the way it
Uh,
is right now?
Hey, if it was for like a year or 2 years,
Yep.
sure. Yes, I would. Bobrovsky's still an elite goaltender. Um, and for a guy that's 37 years old, who'd have thought? But I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes with the goalies, like the older they are, the better they are. Like when you look at Tim Thomas, who
Tim
came out of
Thomas, a
nowhere.
great example.
How
Yep.
old was he? He was like pushing 40 when
He
he
was
won the cup.
38 or 39. Yeah.
So, um, as long as they're healthy and that sort of stuff, uh, yeah, you can't go wrong. I mean, the Flyers never should have traded Bobrovsky, but they had to have Brizgalov, so
Mike, you have
set
to have
that
the goalie
organization
that's
back a bit.
you have to have the goalie that's worried about the alien abductions. Come on, Mike,
Yes,
you know
yeah.
that. Well, Mike, that's it for this show, except for is there anything else that you wanted to go over about this NHL in general, hockey, or maybe the finals? Maybe there's something else you wanted to add to what we saw or didn't see.
Well, I mean, they after the series was over, they talked about some of the injuries that the Florida guys had played through as well, which is, Matt Tkachuk played through a couple major injuries, so he's probably going to be off for the summer of doing nothing and trying to heal up for next year or so.
Right.
Uh, so he played hurt, like with You know what? And here's the thing: like, whenever I hear the laundry list, basically of injuries that these players play through, if this was basketball,
Load
not
management,
not
Mike.
basketball, but
Load management.
no chance would these guys be playing. Zero. And it's a different culture, so I just didn't want to, But anyways, not trying to knock basketball, just saying that NHL hockey players are above and beyond. I'd say pretty much every other sport. They'll play through anything to win the cup. You're not going to see that. Maybe a little bit in football, but in general, you're not going to see players play through what they went through. Barkov, I guess, had to have his hand all stitched up and then glued up multiple times through the playoffs because I guess he had a big cut across the palm of his hand. So, that's what they were saying. Kind of limited his effectiveness the first couple of games, but other than that, I mean, Matt Duchene re-signed today with Dallas. Nice team-friendly deal, 4.5 million a year, which is pretty reasonable for a guy that put up like between 60, 70 points. So
Yep,
so that's
absolutely.
good for Dallas to, and I think Dallas is trying to try to get their guys all brought back that they had last year too, and they should be able to. I don't think they have too many guys that are on the last year of their deal that would be leaving. So
The only one they're not bringing back is the coach.
yeah, the coach is gone, so not sure who they're going to bring in to replace him, but I think the core of that team is all going to stick together, and Dallas should have a good year next year.
Okay, well, now that's it for this episode. Now, we are going to be back next week, aren't we, Mike? And I believe Chris is going to be with us next week, too. I'm pretty sure. So, should be interesting. We'll get to chat about some different stuff other than the Oilers and the Panthers. And so, we'll see what's going to happen next week. So, like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you next week, folks. Later.
Later.